Hi everybody, I'm Paul and welcome to the Haywood's Jewellery YouTube channel. So around about a year ago I posted a video on how to become a gemologist, and that video has done really well on my small channel, and as of recording this video it's had over 6,000 views. So thank you to everybody who watched that video and everybody who went on to become a subscriber. Thank you so much. And I thought it was about time I actually went and did a follow-up video to that video. And in this video, there was a lot of videos, I'm going to talk about the career options that are available when you become a qualified gemologist, because it is one of the most common questions that I get asked. And with gemology, there's no kind of set career path. There's lots of options available to you, which means you can have a very diverse career. And it's unlike a lot of other things you can go and study like law or accountancy, where it's very defined as the career path you're going to follow. Gemology is not like that. So in this video, I am going to go through some of the main options that are available for you to pursue when it comes to career and gemology. So let's jump into the options. So the first option when it comes to careers around gemology is to go and work in retail. And I know a few people are going to roll their eyes at that one and go, oh, I don't want to go and work in retail. But the reason why retail is such a popular option is because there's more opportunities available in retail than any of the other options I'm going to talk about in this video. This is because there's more jewelry shops than there is anything else when it comes to the world of jewelry and gemstones. And people will often think, oh, retail is pretty boring. It's going to be kind of like minimum wage. But when you're a gemologist, there are a few options that become available to you. The first one is if you've got natural leadership ability, you can use that in combination with your knowledge around gemstones, and you can work through the management structure of the company. And it depends on the type of jewelry you're working for. So it could be something like a high street jeweler or chain retail jeweler, or you can work for independent ones and you can work your way up through the management structure. So if it's a big chain store, you can go and move on like the corporate side of things. Or if you find that you have an affinity for sales, you can actually work your way up through the different quality of jewelers that are out there. So you could start, generally most people start at the bottom, so kind of like pretty inexpensive jewelry, mainly as I say like chain retailers, that kind of price point. But if you've got gemstone knowledge and you can also sell, you'll find yourself moving up through the kind of different echelons when it comes to price points. And if you're very good, you'll end up at the very top of the food chain, working for places like Harry Winston or Graf and dealing with really exceptional gemstones and diamonds. So that is some of the options that are available in retail, but there are also some side steps you can take along the way, and I'm going to cover those a little bit more in options later on in the video. So the second option that is available is also along the retail route, but working for a pawnbrokers. And this is a great way to learn about gemstones and how to start valuing and appraising gemstones, because you're going to have jewelry coming in all day long. And as the gemologist, it's going to be your job working for these places to provide a value for these stones and these pieces of jewelry in general. And say this is a great way to start learning about values. And also there's career progression options available within pawnbroking, and they are very similar to those as I just mentioned in general retail. You can either move up through the management side of things, or you can work your way up to work for high-end pawnbrokers, because for a lot of the high-end pawnbrokers, gemstone qualifications and gemstone knowledge is an essential skill that they require, because they're dealing with very high-end gemstones and diamonds, and they need people on staff who can provide accurate valuations and identifications of these stones so that you can give the right value and lend out the right amount of money on that piece of jewelry. So it is an essential qualification for high-end pawnbrokers is to be a gemologist, especially when they're dealing with lots of jewelry. So the third option is also a great way to learn about the value of gemstones, and that's to go and work for an auction house. And there's a couple of options available. You can either go and work for specialist jewelry auction houses, even though these are quite rare, or you can go and work for an auction house that has a specialist jewelry department. And once again, gemology qualifications are generally required for these roles, because you're going to be taking in pieces of jewelry. You need to provide identifications for them, and you need to provide estimated values for them. Now, you're not going to do this straight away. You're going to be taught and trained exactly how to do this, but you do need that base in gemology in order to be able to identify these stones, and then you can then learn about the valuations afterwards. But it's a great way to basically start understanding the market, understanding values, and how to value and appraise gemstones. So auction houses can be a great learning experience for new gemologists. And I also did this very, very briefly for a specialist auction house here in the UK. And as I say, it was very briefly, but I did learn quite a lot in the short time I was actually with the auction house. So the fourth option, and a common career advancement from the previous two options that I just mentioned, is to go and become a valuer or an appraiser. Now these mean exactly the same thing, it's just different terminology that's used in different places around the world. But let's say this is a very natural progression for a lot of people because they've been valuing pieces, working for pawnbrokers or auction houses, so they understand how the appraisal process works and they know exactly how to appraise a piece of jewellery. And what they generally do is they'll go and get a specialist qualification around valuations, and then they will go on to be an independent valuer or appraiser. Now you can do this working for other companies, or you can go and set your own business up doing this, which is what a lot of people go and do. But you do need experience in order to do this, which is why doing one of the previous two options is a great way to get started. And also demand is increasing for this kind of service year on year because insurance companies are more and more requiring independent valuations on pieces of jewellery in order to be able to have an accurate valuation should anything happen to that piece of jewellery when it comes to paying out and making claims and things like that. So having the knowledge and experience is essential for this, and picking it up with the last two options is a great way to learn on somebody else's dime. So the fifth option is also a career progression from the first three, and that is to go on and become a buyer. And you can work as a buyer in many different situations. You can work as a buyer for big chain jewelers, or you can work as a buyer for high-end independent jewelers. And this is something I did mention in the first one, which is sidesteps, because there are a lot of people who are gemologists who work for big name retailers who do that sidestepping from working on the retail side of things to working on the buying side of things, because they have the knowledge around gemstones. They also start to understand the value of things, and they can make really good buyers. Plus it is an essential skill. If you're going to be buying gemstones, you need to know what you're looking for. So this is a very much a natural career progression from the first options that I mentioned, and it is something that is required, and gemology is an essential skill in order to be able to buy the best quality gemstones, or the gemstones that your employer requires. Now say this can be done on the retail side, but you can also work for gem dealers as well, because gem dealers need people who know exactly what they're doing in order to be able to buy the best quality gemstones. And if you're working for gem dealers, this can involve travel as well, because you might have to go to far-flung corners of the world to visit all these amazing locations where gemstones are found in order to source the best quality stones. So if you like travel, maybe being a buyer could be a good career option for you. So the sixth option is to be a field gemologist, and this is one of the most varied roles when it comes to gemology, because you can be doing a variety of different things. One, you're going to be doing lots of traveling, because you're going to be traveling all around the world to different locations. You could be prospecting to see if there's valuable resources available and if it's worth mining there. You could be visiting mine sites and doing identifications to make sure they're actually mining what they think they're mining. And you can also be buying stones as well, but buying them directly from the source rather than actually waiting until they're being cut and faceted. And you can actually buy the rough crystals, and then you can decide what to do with this. It's a very varied career, and if you like getting down and dirty in the mud and dirt to actually find these crystals for yourself, this could be something that you might really enjoy. So I know people who have done this and they absolutely love it. They're traveling all around the world. Not so much in 2020 and 2021, but generally they are traveling all around the world, find all these amazing gemstones and dealing with a variety of different people all around the world. So option number 7 couldn't be more different from being a field gemologist, because it's being a lab gemologist, where you're in a lab and you're identifying stones and generally producing gemstone reports. Now this can be a great option for people who really enjoy the scientific side of gemology. So you enjoy using all the advanced equipment, you enjoy doing the identifications, you really enjoy the scientific side of things, dealing with charts and graphs and things like that. For me personally, this isn't really my forte. I prefer the much more practical elements of gemology, but a lot of people do really enjoy the science side of things, and this is where working in a lab can be a great option, because people send in their gemstones and then you do an identification on them, so you find out what they are, where they come from. This can sometimes be an added option, and also identify any treatments that have been done to that stone. You then produce a report around it and then send it back to the customer. Now some people absolutely love this because they love the scientific side of things, as I say, but say for me personally, I prefer the practical elements. But it is a really good career option, and it's becoming more and more popular as well, because more and more people are wanting reports on their gemstones to know exactly what they're buying and to make sure they bought exactly what they were sold. So it is becoming something that is much more in demand. So those are 7 options that are available once you've become a fully qualified gemologist. Now, a word of advice is you are going to have to start at the bottom because you're very new to the industry. You haven't got that real world knowledge and experience behind you yet to go and jump into a senior position. You're going to have to work your way up. So you're going to have to start at the bottom in retail or the auction houses, work your way up and learn from other people so that you actually get that knowledge and experience behind you so you can take those next steps in your career. So if you want to become a valuer, you need to understand that you're going to have to start at the very bottom, learn all the basics, grow your knowledge over time, then eventually look at that as an option in the future. Now, while these career options are great specifically for gemologists, there are also a couple of careers out there where gemology can be a very beneficial additional skill. And the first one of these is being a bench jeweler or stone setter, because knowing how to work with gemstones can make life so much easier at the bench. Trust me, I know that because that is what I'm actually pursuing with my own career. I am learning how to be a stone setter, and understanding the different properties of gemstones makes stone setting so much easier because you know exactly how much pressure to apply and things like that. It just makes life easier, and it's a very complementary skill to have. And another career where being a gemologist can be a very beneficial addition is being a stone cutter, because obviously you're cutting stones. So knowing the most you can about those different gemstones, the different crystals, is going to make life much easier because you're going to understand what kind of styles you can cut them in, which is going to be best for that style of stone. There's just lots of things where you can learn about them, and you're going to be able to use that when you're cutting stones, using that knowledge of gemology to hopefully produce even better quality stones than anybody else. So that is another option out there. So those are 2 careers where being a gemologist can be a very beneficial skill. And there are people I know who do both of those, who have become gemologists as well. And it's just made their lives so much easier. Having that knowledge of gemstones, it's made their main career so much easier. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you have, please drop a like on the video because it really does help the channel out with the almighty YouTube algorithm. Also consider subscribing as well because I am trying to grow this channel out. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next video.